going to get started here in a couple minutes after I introduce everyone. Thank you all for coming. I think it will be a great experience. I know our participants are thrilled to be doing this debate. They have not stopped talking about how excited they were the past few days. So the debate will feature all current or future Georgetown debaters, 3 of whom are alums of the Georgetown Debate Seminar, so that's a pretty cool thing. We have, you all are the negative team here. The first negative from college prep school, Elsa Givan. Elsa is taking a year off between college and, or high school and college, so I guess she'll be Georgetown class of 2018. So we have far and away the best recruiting class of 2018 right now. So come join Elsa's class if you're a rising senior. But Elsa was the top speaker at NFL Nationals a couple weeks ago, which in my opinion is probably the hardest thing you can do in high school debate, the hardest thing to accomplish, just the diversity of styles you have to adapt to. So I'm excited to hear her. The second negative, Andrew Markoff. Andrew will be a senior at Georgetown next year, and he has done, for the past 3 years at Georgetown, has racked up some incredible results. Some statistics that I think are particularly noteworthy. Well, they just had a year, Arsht, who I will introduce in a second, Markoff, where they were 8-9-8, I believe, on the season, which is pretty remarkable. They were also 12-1 against new affirmatives, which is kind of a crazy statistic. And I wish I had done my research before this, but they've gone on these 2 amazing streaks of negative wins. One lasted from January of 2012 through October 2012, and then there was another one, but they don't lose that many days, so that's nice. Andrew's from Bronx. He's probably a little rusty, but I have faith that he can get back in the game here. We also have Andrew Arsht, another Andrew's partner, rising senior at Georgetown. Andrew is one of 2 people in debate history who has won, in college debate there are kind of the trinity of awards: top speaker at the NDT, winning the NDT, and winning the Copeland Award, which is to the top ranked team in the regular season. He is one of 2 people ever to accomplish that feat prior to his senior year. So that's pretty awesome, And then we have Anastasia Kazteridis, also from Bronx School of Science. She will be a Georgetown class of 2017. I don't know these because I'll probably won't be around for that long. Who knows? But in any event, she had just a remarkable high school year where she was a top 10 speaker at basically every national tournament. She's great, she's going to be awesome in college, and we're excited to have her at Georgetown. So it should be a fun debate, and I will now give you Anastasia for the first affirmative.
Contention when his royal schools, human knowledge is never the embargo, only lost out U.S. safety efforts against the 12 and Cuba also has expressed concern has been danger of an accident as Cuba pursues oil without U.S. energy expertise on safety. The embargoes of Cubans with insufficient resources and experience with high-tech gear that less the chance for response that was crucial to continue the end of the deep water horizons. Bill that's also need to get over yesterday's politics. Cuba is determined to continue exploring shadow while the water holds less promise free to private. That doesn't mean Cuba will give up. Russian drilling is also inevitable. Newest evidence to Mayo 13. A Russian state will continue drilling off Cuba's northern edge to confirm temporarily halting exploration. It will resume its exploration if the airport's government ban pressure to form political and conduct and commercial ties with Canada and Washington should allow American oil firms to get a piece of the potential profit. Now embargo failed since a proactive approach to Bill's Hellman in 11 Repsol start drilling off the coast of Cuba and will be joined by from Vietnam, Malaysia, and Venezuela. But you won't see the U.S. companies there. The U.S. maintains its economic embargo. This represents a dangerous threat to the environment. The U.S. embargo will do nothing to prevent oil drilling from taking place in Cuban waters, but it will prevent the work from being done by the most experienced companies with the highest quality equipment. Although the industry's best serving companies apart, manufacturers are right here on the U.S. Gulf Coast to laptop trade its people in search for spare parts in the rest of the world. Now, absent proactive steps to actions are inevitable. U.S. experts are keep Holstead and 12. The embargo is getting away safety when it comes to drilling. Cuba's sanctions not only threaten Florida's environment and that of Cuba too. The worst case scenario of state calls or chaos and disasters like a hunt would also give prevention efforts. And as we are getting ready for such that will inevitably happen if we don't take right proactive steps, our goal is about to tap the reservoir. Should there be a need for response, the U.S. has not interpreted its sanctions policy in a way that would make it available technologies that would be required independently. Hurricanes cause Bill that quick reaction is necessary to solve that. Stevens and a lot of the BP disaster has the need for timely responses to spills of blue water occurred in Cuba. Water the embargo not allow U.S. firms to drill, but the U.S. spills are likely because Hurricane Champion, the Gulf War system, the U.S. firms will place 24 to 48 hours to arrive barring their participation. However, it would take 30 to 50 days for help to arrive from Brazil. The Treasury Department is authorized to issue licenses on emergency, but the BP still show early response needed would be made sure by the time required to procure licenses. Now the app boosts reaction time. U.S. experts solved that's a carry and 11 having New Jersey up to Cuba. There's a global scramble for Havana. These rigs up Cuba will go even deeper than Deepwater Horizon. What happens if there's another spill? Will be easy to clean up? No. Engineers and best experts on safety procedures and dealing with those that are forbidden by laws to be involved in any way with Cuba. Now the spill spreads and kills ecosystems. They are key to regional biodiversity. Almeida and 12. Cuba's asked to contain the response to severely shook by use embargo of disaster because not only will Cuba ecosystems be severely impacted, but those of the U.S. coast considering Cuban waters are home to the highest concentration of biodiversity in the region and spawning grounds for fishing. Cuban oil spill could inflict unprecedented environmental devastation. Now biodiversity in specific hotspots checks extinction is key to agriculture, medicine, and ecosystems. Bit of iron 11. Human activities elevate a species 2,000 or more times natural rate. As species vanish, so does the health security of every human species. Being hard work for new, the next pathogen with the species also eliminate the source of genes we use to improve agriculture, resilience, and ecosystems for humans and all life on Earth. Extinction is a global phenomenon. Myers describes 10 hotspots for the basis of extraordinary and doesn't have to have lots of extensive global review has introduced 7 new hotspots on the basis of new data. Now the Caribbean is one such hotspot. CEPF and 10. The Caribbean island hotspot is one of the world's greatest centers of biodiversity. Everyone depends on Earth ecosystems of distinct factors. The Caribbean islands qualify as one of these global biodiversity. Their high density. The Caribbean island has exceptionally important for global biodiversity. Contention 2 is cooperation. U.S.-Cuban oil cooperation checks U.S.-China resource funds and all broader intent. Those involved in the management to understand the implications of energy security and cooperation between the U.S. and Cuba. These include assessments and the growing influence of Ukraine and the region. Energy resources Cuba might buffer against its disruption. U.S. energy production issues surrounding it becomes existential and seemingly insensible to actually fuel American people and helps such effective competition with China over scarce petroleum resource by U.S. energy policies. It is essential the U.S. promote its interest in by developing NOC development of Cuba. The objective is the transformation of Cuba into a stable NOC that exhibits high technological competency in light of oil nationalism through cooperation benefits with NOC by the U.S. There's also consequences for the NOC as an instrument of public policy to U.S. national interests, in particular China's growing presence in Latin America is being interpreted as a sign of intensified competition over energy resources. This competition could easily be the cause of international conflict then coming out of U.S. Sino-Gulf nuclear crisis. Management does not check Lot 13. Although Beijing watch out for crisis management, miscommunication, misunderstanding remain and draw on deep suspicion. It is unclear whether either side understands what kind of sanctions will be involved nuclear response by the other. Neither side seems to believe any other suggesting escalation would be especially difficult. Both sides possessing nuclear weapons conflict would be devastating. The plan sufficiently hedges U.S. energy security. Benjamin Alvarado intends successful but even energy security will net security U.S. and its broader geostrategic imperatives in the region of Cuba could potentially support American need by serving as a hedge against supply destruction and petroleum production. Now U.S.-Cuban oil cooperation is key to check existing U.S. Latin American tensions. Benjamin Alvarado intends Deepening collaborative modalities with regional partners enhanced by pursuing energy cooperation with Cuba. Cuba's increased relationship might continue to promote beneficial efforts. A partnership might serve as a confidence builder in assuaging misgivings and regional partners supporting American domination in its report. The Commission suggests the base for effective benefits with the Latin American partners here to combination. Cuba has been assembling blocks for use relations with the countries of the hemisphere. The report identified initiatives leading to directly notify the in order to sufficiently promote the confidence and trust that serves the U.S. interest for recommended lands of U.S. companies participating in the development of Cuban offshore oil. Now is a key time for U.S. Latin American time to determine the last coming best shifter. And 12, if the U.S. will not do not make the effort now, the chance may slip away. Most likely to never be able to use your great usefulness to deal with a range of common problems and a spate of missed opportunities. The U.S. and Latin America will go their separate ways for both opportunities that will have more productive relations that are risk to maintain steps forward to helpful arise with the effective collaboration. There is much transparency. The U.S. Latin America become much more adversely affecting efforts to time to seize the moment and overhaul hemispheric relations that falls forming a terrorism shifter. And 12, Cuba poses a challenge in relations to the U.S. Latin America. The embargo is a failed and punitive punishment has long been strained on U.S. Latin American relations. Cuba is one of the residual which is the most obstructive effect of U.S. Latin American engagement, and to isolating Cuba would be an important first step. Latin American relations and are assuming enhanced roles in political and security issues, which include non-proliferation, proliferating intelligence, and air ground development of stable forces with monthly terrorist countries in the region give priority to climate change challenges. This may position them as voice in international debates on the topic. The Amazon basin gives South American nations an important role. The U.S. should support coordination on presumption shared to now nuclear terrorism escalates to major nuclear war. Global cooperation on material transfers is key. ASIN intend an act of nuclear terrorism for the events that lead to mass exchange nuclear weapons between 1 or 2 more states. How might the U.S. react if the U.S. they had come from Russia and South Washington? Response might be raise possibility of competition between China and the U.S. might pursue the nuclear arsenal high stage alert. Moscow and China may reduce the design of U.S. intend that sanctions might grow. Russia would be subject to nuclear terrorism. The charged atmosphere how likely attack of nuclear issue with this kind. We want to be reducing such costs for further international cooperation on the control of system physical materials. Now cooperation is key to adaptation, coordination, mitigation, efforts, slaughter, and 11 the world is much more multilateral. Trying to multilateralization created and ensure about multilateral unwieldy the speed and flexibility and energy self-aware management of climate change. The full consequence of interconnectedness that we're restoring to adapt. Now CO2 is key, EDF and that. There is no debate among scientists. Most respected scientific bodies stated that warming is occurring. People are causing the best way to lower temperature, lower CO2 emission, and investment far away effect damage and disrupt the scientific use CO2 for related but overtaking the United States is not natural. These activities are pumping far more CO2 in the atmosphere than are lethal. CO2 is explosive. We must limit the gas emissions and unforeseen since human civilization began. The consequences are dire. Extinctions come in intent. The world needs to resubmit to world climate case for failure. I said survival is in jeopardy. Billions will die. That's the plan. The United States federal government should lift its restrictions on private crude oil exploration, extraction, refinement, imports, and engineering and safety protocol coordination. Cuba has 3 or 4. Its solvency plan is back to public use services, state gas and power have their own areas, and the second use of the exploration protection jars to build up building services. The opportunity U.S. would be created. There's no electric work. There are numerous opportunities for abuse. And Fargo said this type of engagement can occur. Now, second, Cuba will also say yes as spills over into broader cooperation. Also, Benjamin Alvarado intend the opportunity to advance relation energy appears to be right to an energy that made clear their preferred energy to the U.S. oil industry and technologies. Should the U.S. policy may pave the way to establish much needed confidence across these communities.
So the U.S. is well on its way to becoming the leading global oil producer, literally on Earth. Why is Cuba, which maybe could get to top 10, important for energy?
I think I kind of contest the premise of that question. I don't think the U.S. is on its way to becoming the most oil productive or like domestic country reliant on domestic oil. Even if it were, our evidence indicates that that wouldn't happen for a while. The piece of shifter.
There's definitely a debate about whether or not the U.S. will surpass Saudi Arabia, for example, both like fracking and shale gas. It's highly likely we'll produce a lot of transportation fuels.
Right, that's not
curious why. And my only question is, what hedge is sufficient? If you need a physical amount of oil to hedge energy cooperation, how much?
I don't have like.
Yeah, rising demand in all countries means that there's a hemispheric element to this. So it's not a question of can we.
But you know that oil is traded on a global market, right?
I am aware.
Okay, so why would we need a hedge for a global oil price spike? Both the U.S. and China subscribe to the same oil price. Why would it matter if more oil's in the system?
Well, we've also talked about this before, so I know that you know that there are frictions in that market and that at a geopolitical
So there's going to be an oil price
investments
spike?
that states put into different reserves and the degree to which they open them up to.
Do you have evidence that says that this is anything besides the U.S. and Cuba should cooperate and like gradually reduce the amount of embargo or lift the embargo? Because the app doesn't lift the embargo, right?
Well, all of our evidence is specific to allowing U.S. private firms and corporations to drill for oil in Cuba. The piece of shifter evidence indicates that the embargo on oil is seen as the most significant challenge to effective U.S.-Cuban relations. The piece of evidence also indicates that would spill over to solve things such as warming because of the importance of
Well,
with thoughts on
I
prohibition.
guess I'm a little skeptical about the shifter evidence. I don't think it actually talks about oil. It says that Cuba is a challenge relations between the U.S. and Latin
Right, the
America.
U.S. embargo is a
failed.
failed and punitive punishment.
But
It
the app
has
doesn't
long
look at
been
the
a
embargo.
strain on U.S.-Latin American relations.
But the app doesn't look at
Right,
embargo.
but then well, it lists the oil embargo, like the oil embargo. It doesn't list the
Okay,
embargo.
but there you still, like, for example, we would sanction other countries that trade with Cuba.
I mean, I would refer you to like the 7 Benjamin Alvarado cards, which are all oil cards.
Okay, so we can probably talk about this. Actually, we should probably talk about this now. That first piece of evidence, Benjamin Alvarado says, Cuba's increasing leadership role in the region might be used by the U.S. to promote beneficial efforts in the Americas. We know how it is to develop a broad range of alternative energy technologies. Then at the end it says, we have this Brookings report. The report recommends licenses for U.S. companies to participate in the development of Cuban offshore oil, gas, and renewable energy resources, which you don't do. And then also recommends a long-term initiative to alternative energy. Okay, to provide general licenses for transportation of additional categories of goods and services that enhance the environment, conserve energy, and provide improved
Right, I
quality
think
of
we're
life.
missing the part that indicates that the 1AC is a necessary first step to any sort of that cooperation.
Okay, so
The
it's
evidence,
just-
the top part of the evidence that you're not referencing indicates that right now we are not cooperating with Cuba because, and other countries in Latin America because they don't like the way we have been treating Cuba. The plan is a necessary first step, which is a quote from that evidence.
Okay, a few quick points before we get to the 1AC. You notice how clear Anastasia was reading the 1AC? She doesn't have to scream next between each card. You know when she's moving to the next tag because the way she has vocal variety. She changes the way she modulates her voice between reading a card. It always sounds like her. She doesn't take on weird card reading voices. It always sounds like her, but you know when she's making transitions. The transitions between the advantages are very clear. Each one has a title. That's very nice. And she speaks with a lot of emphasis, but with the natural rhythm of what she's reading. You know, there was one card where she said, are we going to be able to respond in time? No. And that came through very clearly. But she wasn't like, are we going to respond in time? No. You know, she spoke with the rhythm of the card. And then in the cross-X, you always hear that you should know your 1AC cards well, and Anastasia does, and she draws reference to them. But the amazing thing is, who else knows them well? Markoff does. And how has he done that? Well, by looking at the 1AC, the disclosure before the debate, reading it during the speech, taking notes on it, highlighting the cards in other colors, and he tries to know the 1AC as well as the 1A does. And then, obviously, Arsht and Markoff can't help but get into it a little bit, having just won a Copeland on the energy topic when energy comes up in the cross-X. But I think you'll find, the thing I love about this is when done well, it's such an amazing spectator activity. I mean, it's not, the finals of Wimbledon are on, and it's a close call what you would rather be watching, that or a good debate.
As all of the debaters.
All right, the order is 6 off, the stills advantage, and then the cooperation cybersecurity and equality, And 9 things can be done to generate more effective group IT experts in the United States. How many coming back to U.S. institutions for overseas for turning back dispossessed and disadvantaged talent students have tremendous ability to develop scientific advances in green cards that's going to strengthen our security needs and cyber terrorism will cause accidental launch that triggers nuclear war threats. And 9 times our future has chosen electronic factors to the system for processing and nuclear launch order cyber terrorists, infiltrate and insert false orders and launch tests by cyber terrorists to create illusions because that state strike can also engage failed deadly systems. The nuclear war to start now next is topicality, economic aids, definition of removing selective restrictions on specific goods and economic goods and because doesn't broadly affect economic life. That's Davidson and free to destiny economic sanctions that support restriction on trade finance transactions intended to compare economic size within a given territory selected for individualized measures such as restrictions on specific goods are therefore not considered economic sanctions. Immediately Clinton violates its solely those restrictions that pertain to a specific good, which is oil. See, that's the voting issue to explode the topic by allowing the act to tweak the embargo on cigars or any minor good. The topical version of the act is to lift the whole embargo or a large coordinated set of restrictions. Limits are vital to preparation, which causes clash and depth of education. Next is the counterplan text. The United States federal government should extend the Nexus plan for emergency responses to Cuba as well as increase drilling within the United States and its territorial waters. The United States Department of the Treasury will not adversely regulate or find actions to protect drilling safety in Cuban territorial waters. The United States Department of the Treasury will award licenses to first the equipment and expertise to fight the effects of oil spills to operate in Cuban waters. And the counterplan solves waiving embargo enforcement for oil safety. Saul Stevens and all of the law should use existing licensing authorities to ensure the right first best equipment and expertise in place to fight oil. So the Treasury Department should make clear that the efforts to protect safety during drilling in U.S. entities will not be met with a negative regulatory consequence. The issue should look to existing models such as Nexus and expanding U.S. drilling solves just as well for dependency. Doesn't lead to policy scan out and time by lifting USDS moratorium the U.S. would achieve state benefits as well as these drilling laws to Cuba. The American public needs some environmentalists to become increasingly supportive. These steps will solve a political battle that has been living for years. Also avoids the pink tide to Sadowski and 11 embargo because the embargoes will stop and met down without the time deliveries. The embargo is met by top users for severe security always look to be assuaged by an oil emergency response agreement with Cuba. Next is the Saudi Arabia. Just that A is unique that Saudi Arabia has not yet acquired the golf possession of use supports the key factor. For Sam G and 13 the Regarding skeptical and by may seek to purchase the after Iran Saudi Arabia is the #1 candidate for further nuclear proliferation. Doubts about the viability of Washington is liable to encourage Iran to develop independent nuclear infrastructure. And B is the link Cuban production trades off with U.S. Mideast oil ties. Al-Hadi and Morrison for the proximity of Cuba to the U.S. The possibility of massive oil deposits in Cuban water will have tangible impact on economic environments. Largely the costs could affect oil trade between the U.S. and other oil producing countries, especially in the Middle East, and the impact of Saudi for oil costs nuclear war Edelman in 1196 by the Saudi government. Seek out nuclear weapons could be tied in the sale and the increasing incentives for the other nation to pursue nuclear weapons. Fewer more nuclear powers could be more approach to speculation. Escalation emerging nuclear powers might not avoid a nuclear exchange on certain regional nuclear war. Next is topicality, appeasement. The plan has been appeasement values, appeasement on engagement doesn't establish long-term economic context. Resting one needs as a loss for substantive distinction, geography, activation, engagement, appeasement. The standard definition does not fragment much guidance because it seeks foreign policy approach in terms of the unstoppable and clearly precise needs a rigid, conceptual distinction between engagement difference from appeasement and appeasement by establishing an increasingly interdependent relationship with appeasement. It's not about the establishment of complex territory and or sphere of influence or transferred unconditionally and blurring the distinction between engagement and appeasement, breadth, limits, and precision. Both negative resonate and one equal definition of engagement helps clarify distinctions as we draw the last more focus and coherent discussion and establishing a clear definition terms is a precondition for effective policy making. Decision makers who invoke this in terms of erratic ad hoc fashion risk eliminate their constituencies, so obviously with the undercut their ability to conduct valuable empirical research. Next is the shunning just at Cuba is a flagrant, willful, persistent violator of human rights repression enforcing Miami Herald and 13 things for the worst official oil recorded 30-year record high in a single month of the American society or prison sentences, assault, suspicious death, telling the truth is a crime of custom free speech, political activity, for association, building blocks of a free society. Report is a depressing chronicle of human rights abuses and reject engagement with human rights abusers. Moral ditch is shunned in 89. The moral order contributes significantly to people's rights to be respected. People mutually reinforce each other's moral behavior. Were people to stop reinforcing each other's moral behavior, there would be much more violation of people's rights. Shunning may be a form of moral sanction. We have an obligation to someone we feel to do so. Others may interpret our failure as tacit complicity and the willful, persistent, blatant immorality. Next is the spills advantage. There's no drilling in the status quo. Companies that fail. In grade 13, there came promises of labels of critical West drilling or Brazil's example D. See drilling in Cuba wrestling, give up to quick television came up. Empty Venezuela and drilling back last week in the end of shallow water drilling. In turn, the plan causes drilling. A is the embargo discourages Cuban drilling, makes other countries more appealing. Trials in 12, there are many offshore areas competing with Cuba for international oil companies, particularly off the coast of South America and Africa and Cuba. The American embargo makes it far more difficult for companies seeking to explore Cuban waters. And B is that causes sustained daily drilling damage. That always the act white tiny even without a catastrophe. As basic numbers like through offshore drilling rates pollute the mere presence of offshore drilling infrastructure will introduce heavy metals and hydrocarbons development of districts will confine these ecosystems to pre-existing environmental problems. In Cuban and down U.S. prevention efforts are sufficiently status quo. Sadowski and 11 Cuba has an incentive to ensure safe drilling access to the U.S. reports indicate that Cuba is taking safety seriously while the economic embargo of Cuba restricts American technology from being utilized for foreign services, providing self-commercial alternatives. And marine ecosystems are resilient. Candidates to marine ecosystems are resilient. Biological components are tightly coupled on to respond quickly environmentally friendly, responsibility for environmental change, such rhetoric then, ecologically adaptable, nexusly cooperation advantage, normalized, U.S.-Cuban ties are coming happen by 2018 under Diaz Canal, God, and 13 was likely successful to be Diaz Canal, such a catapult to revolutionary process by 2018, Fidel Castro will likely be dead, the goals to grow to manufacturers remain possibility, there seems to be little doubt under a future President Diaz Canal, Cuba would be able to forge a new and beneficial relationship with the U.S., and the drilling agreement alone won't spill over to broader relations, things we planned as a solve pageant, and 12, there's wishful thinking, so is the notion that U.S. cooperation on drilling can be duplicated on other fronts among them are the embargo which Washington keeps in place when you plan pieces, Cuba causes collapse of U.S. resolving global conflict growth, and not lifting the embargo would normalize relations, but legitimize Fidel's lionizing, encouraging law in American law because the economy's nationalized trade will pour into the cash of the Cuban National Congress. The last thing we should do is for the caucus regime to become a serious menace to U.S. interests law in America beyond China, Russia, Iran, and two partners really revitalize Cuba with an influx of resources. The Cuban regime was surely team up with Venezuela, Nicaragua, Bolivia, Cuba, and socialism, anti-Americanism. The embargo has Seth Gannon ambitious cause, and that causes U.S.-Russian miscalculation. Walser and aid did this through competition with the influence of merited international states like Castro, Chavez, and Fires Bill, and the anti-U.S. coalition on the Castro, however, Chavez is in possession of cities with Castro, there is a dangerous, and Castro will invite Russia to service guarantee receive security, subsequently draw Russia into additional confrontation with the U.S. The single most difficult security challenge facing the U.S. in the near immediate future. That causes nuclear war. Gottmuller and aid the U.S. Russia can through computational zone, unpredictable war damage, that we've seen since the Cuban Missile Crisis exchanges to evoke anger, they have the potential to spark a dangerous crisis, transitions to transitions to misunderstanding, the crisis, our nuclear weapons are still days after launch, and warning of an attack we can still come close to a nuclear catastrophe before we know it. Now there's no nuclear terrorism tech barriers, prevention, chapter 12, like the terrorists can come up with atomic bombs, eventually small the events of our multitude of nuclear toxic terrorists has to get the physical materials that we're using. One would already gone missing there, that hope the capability of nonsense, something you can get, you can generally powerful with your garage for Christ specialist, still these, means it's fancy certain people who know what's going on in multiple attempts, someone will blather, screw up, and no resource worth is too sensitive. Market text Victor and 8D, resource worth are increasingly very resource flavor, they were complicated there, expensive, really was down, explosion, some well funds, for discovery, easier to get resources, food, summer cheese than the gun barrel, warming sun, and getting multiple war and Spencer, 12 the last 2 years, estimated forces, the strong state, that is still no after forming cooling, rampant 50 years, also cancel out, warming sun, cancel out, THC, warming ocean, mixing, discussing, extra, and should be distributed to the deep ocean, sensitive to the climate change, is not as hard to say, IPCC assumes there's something fundamentally wrong with the theory itself. I finished the status of the activities. Okay, CIR passed the Senate. Is the Senate bill the one you're going to defend for the purpose of internal links to DIS acts? No, our evidence indicates that the Senate bill passage gave momentum to the bill in the House. However, there seems to be continued... Right, no. My question is the Senate bill that passed, the one that gives you an internal linker impact, is that the one that's key to acquire more workers? Well, obviously the House also passing that bill is... Okay, kind of confused about how you have a link to this DIS act. Here, I'll read it out loud. Plan drains local capital, Guggenheim 11. It has taken years for the Senate to hold a hearing. Unfortunately, not a single senator was willing to explore dialogue with Cuba. This evidence is clearly about the Senate. We both agree that it's past the Senate right now. Why does Senate backlash to the plan mean anything happen? Well, this evidence indicates that it's politically unpopular on a larger scale than just the isolation of the Senate. And no, it doesn't. It just says yes, it does. If not a single member of the Senate is willing to vote for the bill, that probably indicates that there is a structural unpopularity with... Okay, why is Obama's political capital key? The Hindustan Times evidence indicates that Obama has been using his political capital effectively to make a pitch for the Senate. It already passed the Senate. Why is it still key to House legislation? Well, the first piece of evidence, the Cohen evidence, indicates that it's key to sustain pressure on the House. The Cohen evidence... Let's talk about the Cohen evidence. Yeah. Ununderlined part. Work on the bill will be wrapped up before July 4th. It will pass within a few weeks, putting the onus on Republican-controlled House. This evidence just says that passage in the Senate is very likely that happened. Why has the House passed it if it was supposed to pass by July 4th? Because we're missing the first line of the Cohen evidence, which says that the House will be an even harder battle than the Senate. It indicates that while the Senate did give it momentum, there has to be continued pressure from Obama, or else it will fail in the House, which is the hardest place to pass legislation.
Just to clarify, that's your words, not the card. Because the first line of the card is this bill's 900 pages.
No, well, okay, it's the first line I've had. Land. Net benefit is only politics. Is that correct? And Kincaid. Okay, let's look at the politics thing you think is a link shield argument. It says the American public and businesses have become increasingly supportive. Where is there a reason why public popularity is key to congressional votes? Well, first of all, this evidence indicates that with key lobbies that had previously opposed it in Congress, i.e. environmental lobbies and American small businesses, etc. Small businesses do not have as big a voice as oil lobbies. The Saudi Arabia, actually, if you want to talk about the voice of oil lobbies, the question internal link to Saudi Arabia.
internal link to Saudi Arabia dissent, you see,
A perception of lack of U.S. resolve.
okay, I'm kind of confused. The evidence just says that decreasing trade with the Middle East causes, that the plan would decrease trade with the Middle East. Where do you read a piece of evidence that says that that causes proliferation?
That's
That
the
is
first
what
piece of evidence. The Kaczynski evidence, which is from this year, indicates that if there is any, quote, doubt about the reliability of Washington, it would encourage...
So why
Saudi
hasn't
Arabia-
us started our increase in domestic production of oil triggered that? If it's a
I mean,
perception?
either you don't solve your act, or...
Well, no, I think there's one.
Okay, the 1NC. Elsa titled every off-case argument. Some of you who are in my lab here, we say this all the time because it drives me crazy. Every argument, the first thing I did on my flow was I had a word to write down for title, and then I start flowing. As a judge, that makes life so much easier to know what I'm listening to immediately. She didn't waste any time. She read 6 off-case arguments with a sense of urgency, and then she spent more than 3 minutes on the case. You gotta love that. If we're spending less than 3 minutes on the case in the 1NC, we need to recalculate a bit, put a little pressure on the app. The counter plan, she says that the counter plan doesn't link to the pink tie DA. That's one of their net benefits. Where is the pink tie DA? It's on the cooperation flow. I think putting more points on the case and thinking about how our case arguments act as net benefits to the counter plan. What's the other way that the counter plan interacts with the case? Why are there so many more answers on the cooperation advantage? Well, the Nick thinks the counter plan pretty evidently solves the spills advantage. And I don't know, they may say it solves the cooperation advantage, but we're learning from the 1N's behavior that they think they need to beat that advantage in a way they don't need to beat the spills advantage if the counter plan solves it. Anastasia's process. Do you have a sense for what dissad the app thinks is most dangerous? Yeah, because a big focus on the immigration dissad. But even so, there's not an exclusive one. She does a very nice job of really going after the dissad that they want to beat, because they think it's the best 2NR facing them. But then she also kind of covers. She doesn't make the judge think, oh, they don't have anything to say to the Saudi Arabia dissad, they don't have anything to say to the counter plan. She takes care of what's the status of the counter plan, she investigates the benefits, she presses on the interlink to Saudi Arabia, she talks about a little bit about pink tie. She kind of covers in that 1NC process, but also spends a good 2/3 of it beating the politics DA as best she can in the process. Very nicely done.
Bills, cooperation, T, economic engagement, shunning, the counter plan, the Saudi Arabia dissad, and politics dissad. Bills, cooperation, T, economic engagement, shunning, counter plan, Saudi Arabia, and the Obama dissent. If the oil is there, people are going to go get it. The greedy evidence is a snapshot. Russia is exploiting the status quo. They're also financializing it as a joke. If you don't think they have enough money to actually develop this issue, the spills turn, it's inevitable. It's only a question of whether it's safe or not. U.S. oversight is key to rapid response. The embargo is the reason why it would cause spills now. Stevens 11, the embargo features of Cuba's ability to provide maximal environmental protection. The embargo prevents Cuba from having adequate access to the range of tool needed to deal safely. The embargo restricts Cuba's access to knowledge and association with the public plan for one reactive spill. The embargo prevents meaningful participation in planning for reaction remediation efforts. The embargo is forced Cuba to seek access to drilling equipment supported by convoluted U.S. policy, also releasing adjacent waters of the Gulf of Mexico to significantly less than adequate possession. The white evidence does not say that daily problems spread, which means the occurrence, which is the key to the hotspots impact. Cuba protections are failing now that you don't have rapid response, which is critical because containment is the make it or break it issue. There's an invisible threshold to biodiversity. We should cross it because that is the end point. Cooperation with God evidence is hopeful at best. It's also disproven by the politics link because it assumes future magic support for some kind of nebulous cooperation in Congress won't happen. The pageant evidence is descriptive of the counterplan. Oil is the key part of the entire embargo, which means that we are a step in the right direction and that is sufficient. There's no Russian impact graph 7. Russia has been demonized by Western and Russian most threatened to US and has been defensive field and second war. Russia's country and the IOI ideology and terror destruction, its military process and threatened strategic national will still capable of annihilating the center of more reliable control than it has been in the past 15 years. The threat of a strategic strike approaches zero probability crossed by drone inevitable. The internal link is smoke and mirrors. Make them articulate a single organization or initiative that is starved for revenue can make a difference. That is going to order pink-tied t-shirts, counterfeiting salts, Robinson 11. The U.S. and regulating Latin American Russian counteroffensive to reverse the turn of the love of the Venezuelan revolution earned the wrath of Latin American and transnational elites. More generally, the region's left political forces are as much targets of this counteroffensive as Venezuela. The pink-tied governments may be able to stave off this counteroffensive without mass support. Maybe the only way to ensure their support is by advancing a more fundamentally transformative project. Relations solve the impact is all 13. There are reasons for believing the Congress for Obama and Cuba's devastating pink-tied that brought several local leaders in power in Latin America. It's not exactly of the obvious, but the hostility countries felt toward Bush has made to stand up over Cuba's obstacle to advancing U.S. interest business in Latin American countries. The continuation of the embargoes of the U.S. almost totally isolated. Fissile material is available in the status quo. Smuggling is critical, so Cuba is absolutely necessary because the Caribbean is the best route to get it in there. Victor evidence is talking about Saddam, okay? Even informing us the anthropogenic cooperation is key to successful adaptation and mitigation, which means that even if we don't solve the cause, we solve the impact. That's sufficient. Economic, we open up the whole oil sector, which includes a ton of specific goods and services. Counter-exploitation economic includes bans on single products. It's starting 3. Any economic sanctions, restrictions, and commercial relations between countries. Sanctions include one trade markets that are development. That's 2. More limited trade bans on specific goods and services. Precision engagement is bigger than the scope of trade. Resident 1. Limiting engagement policy to increase the economic independence leaves out military and cultural because their interpretation is arbitrary. There's no definitional basis for oil or anything else as a distinct category. Solvency advocates check an explosion of subsets. They overlimit 1. Cuba athlete leads to stale and unrealistic policy analysis. Prefer reasonability. Competing interpretations causes race to the bottom and over incentivizes going for T. Now, the other topicality argument. We need oil companies employ people. Those people can't cooperate now. Ergo, the plan would have to increase contacts. Appeasement is a subcategory of engagement. Rapid engagement overlap. Appeasement is a subcategory of engagement. We also create an interdependent relationship. More oil trade is, get this, net more trade. No topical Cuba apps. Under their interpretation, they mix burdens. Resting is defining engagement and appeasement to develop a scholarly taxonomy to describe diplomatic strategies, not single policies. That proves the need for reasonability cross-flight. Now, the shunning this at, there's not unique and no-break engagement now with Cuba. It includes embargo executives. Shunning fails in this instance. The embargo is old. The rights violations are ongoing. The theory cannot be true. Utilitarianism is two. An unyielding concern with the world is under political responsibility. Her need attention is not church, even if a woman intends to refuse to be cause of morally compromised and parties right? But it's the fact that details evidence it's hard to be the certainty moral good, political legal violence, and injustice. Moral purity is often a form of complicity, and injustice politics is as much about unintended consequences as it is about intentions. It's the effects of action that is most significant. Often pursuit good generates evil. Found out that good fatalistic, particularly important, always ask about the effects of pursuing evil to judging by efforts and pragmatic ways, moral absolutism, and judgment, and undermines political effectiveness. It is within the agential decision-making capability of USFG to shun and exempt oil. There's no link. We still shun in non-oil areas. The embargo harms Cubans. Hernandez drill net. The embargo has affected deleterious impact on nutrition, health, availability of medicine, and equipment, as well as decreased water quality. And our expert medical opinion, the embargo has caused a significant rise in suffering and deaths in Cuba. The counterplan, currently both currently the counterplan, lack of treasury enforcement is a removal of the embargo as it pertains to coordination, which is in the plan. Both textual and functional differences keep prevent by fixing. Counterplan does nothing for relations because that's based on trade restrictions, not cleanup efforts. They don't solve fast enough. Issuing treasury licenses requires approval after a spill takes place, which is too late. That is Stevens, and drilling in U.S. waters doesn't solve perception of Chinese meddling. The embargo prevents co-op. That's key to responsiveness. Stevens 11 U.S. policies have trucks of meaningful cooperation with Cuba. The Mexican plan provides joint response to African communication between we've long-standing agreements with Mexico. Mexico's expenditures need to monitor, but the U.S. has enforced embargo against Cuba for 5 decades, has no emergency response agreement with Cuba for oil spills. Current U.S. policy creates an atmosphere which prevents any serious level of engagement between companies and groups that understand what drilling should occur and how to prepare for the worst that makes all that extremely difficult to do. It obviously links to politics. House Republicans are radically anti-Cuba. That's their argument. They'll spin it to blast Obama. The Dems also hate the drilling plan, which they can't sever, otherwise we get it from you to do any combination of individual plagues. Conditionality causes sociographic C times 2 strategies to you have to never win this. Positionality ensures some level of strategic control. Now the Saudi Arabia this said they'll never proliferate as far from serving Saudi Arabia, which requires double national and stable mutual acquisition of nuclear weapons. Would be destabilized with extremely difficult to swing nuclear weapons would be a flagrant violation of the benefits of the game which should cause a serious future for the Saudi Arabia relaxing technical technological base to develop such weapons opportunities that require nuclear weapons by purchasing them would destabilize the entire region which leaders that would not be in the best interest of Saudi Saudis for stability. Cross-flight drilling inevitable. U.S. domestic production disproves the ring. Fox News 13. A well of new technologies for underwater robots that 3D scanners for transforming exploration and waste of land and leasing the end of America's reliance on military oil monthly imports of oil between those sexualizing production in the U.S. accounts for 60% of the quality of the soil. For instance, 6 and nearly 100% since 2010. The problem for domestic oil has never been market supply frankly the inability to contaminate the oil, but there's no doubt the process succeeded getting too out of the ground for acting moving catalysts for major geopolitical shifts. Now, the link card's from 04, which means even if they read a newer link card, cooperation can't be tied to oil because they need to account for that 8-year gap. So I'm moving to politics. The Fritz evidence is old. Nukes have been disconnected. Workers aren't key. Not 13. Community is wrestling with several tough problems which consider what kind of U.S. government has no official policy. What is the basis for the U.S. to conduct such operations? There's a huge timeline. Cybersecurity prevents any connection between the policy and legal communities. The U.S. is sharing selected information on cybersecurity with key allies. Should it broaden the dialogue, push to govern the U.S. response, we are still needing to see and understanding cybersecurity. It won't pass Barrett's expel the bill, crash the Bergen House. It's designed to do so. Conservatives say they will then consider a path for citizenship. Amnesty concerns about security making it difficult for conservatives to support it. Rubio has made it clear the border security must be competent. GOP skeptics will support it. And other issues trigger the link AP 616 Obama's. Burn Mexican domestic political landscape, distracting controversies, the surveillance that has outraged people and cast a shadow. It's hard to keep all America's focused on immigration from Obama. The defense of the Obama's Justice Department took the step of subpoenaing phone records. The NSA might cause trouble for Obama's top goals. Cross-fly insurance if this PC is a myth and winners Brandon Hirsch. 12 PC has no bearing on what actually happened 3 months ago. If someone talked to their capital over immigration, this person would have been crazy for reasons that very little to do with PC. Global happen immigration has entirely to do with this story. But PC is poorly applied pundits get it wrong. Unforeseen events suddenly change everything. PC is an empty concept. Winning on one issue changes calculations with the next. There's never any known amount of capital to fix issues. There's no reason to think you can have more victories on calculators. PC believe it's possible or limited great momentum. The plan is popular. Oil lobbies solve the wings. Now, 11 American politicians are especially susceptible to oil lobby pressure. This pressure for U.S. investment in oil success in America is expected to increase in consumption rates more. Leases in Cuban waters equally higher stock valuation. Less than American energy companies want to be is trapped on the sidelines by sanctions. While European rivals are free to develop oil resources on the doorstep of the U.S. Independently, another major spill would crush the U.S. economy. National Commission 11B results trust debate drilling. Ms. Scott will attempt to respond when asked about the effects of the spill of region and action risk around damage to the regional economy and tens of billions of dollars of unavoidable cleanup costs if another disaster happens to the entire offshore energy enterprise is threatened with the nation's economy. But it is distinct from the spill's turn on the case because that is only identifying ongoing damage, not a single large catastrophe, which empirically prevention is able to solve. Extinction also not. Global chaos, followed economic collapse, natural causes, great deficit, training stability, rising pressure, Russia, along with threatening construct of versus likely event, global collapse, dramatic race tensions, couple out with disputes and overturning the result, maybe small social, the coalesce, the Big Bang.
Another part of your Stevens evidence on the spills turn says that there are licenses allowing otherwise restricted U.S. participation in such activities to be granted to address extenuating circumstances or a discretionary basis under the U.S. sanctions regulations. Why does this not solve for any kind of oil spill?
The 1AC internal link is from the next section of the article, and it talks about how even with those exemptions, the response time is 48 hours of approval through a bureaucratic process after the spill takes place. And the unique currents that are present in the Caribbean, and that 48 hours we are all doomed.
Why? What happens in those 48 hours that dooms us?
Well, the thing about oil containment is that because of tides, currents, other things I don't fully understand, the spread is not a linear, blocky, circular process. And so if you don't get it under control in that initial period, it can't be done.
All right, why does shutting fail?
Shutting?
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty apparent that shutting can have different results. So, big difference between Humanitas middle school dances shutting and, Cuba embargo shutting, right? And I think that's the thing that your theory fails to identify, right? Is that meaningful difference is both pragmatically important, but also ethically important.
All right, how does the U.S. both shun and also exempt oil?
Well, we exempt things now, which just proves the ambiguity of your one-size-fits-all approach. It's like there's a human right being violated, even if it violates other human rights. Let's not think about it, talk about it. Anyone seen Wedding Crashers? It's like.
Plan?
is that different than the plan, though?
Like, what's different from the plan?
Just looking away and ignoring the situation just because there have been previous atrocities.
We're not ignoring the situation. We think there are lots of situations. The embargo causes human rights abuses, but biodiversity killing everyone would also be abusive.
All right, if political capital is a myth, how does winners win function?
It's an even-if statement.
How's it work?
Well, if Obama's going to... Also, I don't think their two are interdependent in any way. Sorry, I'm missing a step here. So, winners win as per momentum can exist absent any theory of political capital. Winners win as per political capital relies on momentum is actually a straight term.
All right, how does winners win as reliance on momentum function in the context of immigration?
Well, Obama would be able to steamroll opposition by making it appear like there's an aura of inevitability around the bill, and he would be able to leverage the results of the last election as a political threat that the GOP cannot respond to in political capital terms.
How does he create that aura of inevitability?
Well, he would have to win, which he hasn't, which is why our uniqueness cards are so good.
But how does he get that win post-plan?
Well, the plan yachts that it passes, so he would be achieving a victory in spite of the link rather than because of it.
All right, the Andrew Arsht 2AZ. Pretty nice, huh? On the case, well, first of all, just generally, do you notice how much control Andrew has of where he is in the speech at any given time? You'll notice that he, without breaking stride at all, puts the timer up by his eye. He kind of, he's noticed him do this move. You all were busy before, but he does this move where he has the timer like this, and he's going, and the timer goes up like this, like peripheral vision style. It's not distracting, it doesn't break his flow, but he always kind of knows where he is. And on the case, does he read some cards? Sure he does. But he reads them to beat, they read a dissent there, we need to beat that. They read a link turn to the advantage, we need to beat that. Beat their specific words for their offense. The case defense, his best cards to answer those arguments were already in the 1AC. So he spends that time extending those cards, moving quickly, and reading cards. Every card he reads is an intentional decision. He's like, I want to read this card because I need to beat this warrant of their turn. Not just like, oh, they said no impact, I'm going to read some more impact cards. That kind of thing. There's something Arsht does that I kind of remember this from debating, but he just communicates it so well with his voice. Sometimes you just get rolling. You know what I mean? Like the beginning of this shunning flow, where Arsht is like, it's not unique because they're making exemptions to the embargo now, and the embargo's been around for a long time, and it hasn't worked, so the theory can't be true. Utilitarianism. And then, I don't know if you remember that moment, but he's just going and going and going. They're like separate arguments, but they're just one flow of like a tremendous excitement. And then he hits utilitarianism. And then he says the site with so much excitement. Do you remember what I'm talking about? There are 2 or 3 moments like that throughout the speech where it's amazing. It's like the site is like a punctuation moment. I mean, it's kind of argument, 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 bam, card, argument, 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 bam, card. You know, there's just so much like energy. You just have to feel it. He's not wasting any time. He's going, and all of that, he's just feeding all that energy to the judge, to the audience. Whatever you can do to create that feeling, that really is how you should feel during the 2AC. It's just like focused energy. Gotta do this, gotta do this, gotta do this, gotta do this. Next thing, next thing, next thing, next thing. Go, 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 go. But always very clear and very exciting. And the analytics. Does it make a ton of analytic arguments? No, he's mostly interested in reading cards, because cards win debates. Warranted cards are going to win us the debate. But when he does, it's because he has something he wants to communicate to the judge, usually about their evidence, and he changes his tempo to do it. What was maybe the best example of that? Yeah, the Saudi moment. It's an 8-minute speech. Is it worth it to take 5 seconds slowing down to make a point that might single-handedly beat their dissent? Sure it is. And how much more impact does that have when he kind of connects with you and oh, that's a timer here. When he takes the time to connect with you and say it clearly. He also does he has like a 2-way healthy paranoia, where he's kind of always worried about things the neg is going to do against him. And he's thinking across flows. He's got at any moment trying to just keep track of all debate. Like when he reads the economy add-on on the immigration flow, and he makes sure he has a thought where he's like, oh, if they link turn our spills advantage, I don't want to be debating against this economy impact in my 2AR. So he reads his link to the economy add-on, and then he takes a second to explain to us why the everyday damage their link turn talks about doesn't cause the spill link to the economy. Right? Now, I don't know if that occurred to him before the speech. My guess is he's reading this add-on, and it kind of occurs to him, this is happening on another flow, I better deal with it. And the reason that's possible is that he's reading, the act of reading is just muscle memory. He's not consciously working through the words as he reads them. He just, through speaking drills, has trained himself to read cards when he wants to, and his conscious brain is free to think about other things. I know that sounds weird, but for a lot of you, it's clicked and you have that feeling. For some of you, it hasn't. We have to do speaking drills until we can be reading something clearly and quickly while thinking about something entirely different. Because we want to be making conscious decisions during the speech. Should I read this? Should I read that? What am I reading next? If this doesn't get me in trouble over there, what are they doing here? Etc. Does that make sense? How much easier is it to flow in the audience, by the way? I would guess even though this debate's moving pretty quickly, you all are flowing better than you do in your own debates. Is that generally true? Because in debate, you just have so many other things to keep track of. There's so much other stuff you're thinking about, pulling blocks, trying to look at their cards, and that kind of thing. So I would also be thinking about, as you watch them debate, keep in mind your flow is perfect, but as they refer to the arguments and work down the flow, what did they write down? How are they, when you hear Andrew's 2NC here, he's writing down just the key points they're making to not miss anything, but also be switching around to all his stuff he's prepping. And finally, you have about 30 seconds as Andrew's getting set up here and we're jumping speeches back and forth to look at this 2AC and say, if my partner and I are negative, how are we organizing the neg block? And I honestly, if I were you, I would go ahead and scratch that out in the corner of one of my flows. Write down how you envision the neg block. And then try and reverse engineer after you hear this neg block, what were they thinking and in what ways was it similar and different?